On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
Do you honestly believe that people are so engulfed in whatever persona that they create, that they are in no way, shape, or form at any point in their life when they go home and they go to sleep at night and they lay their head on their pillow, you actually believe that in their mind they don't know who they are? Come on, fam.
Humans are the master of self deception. We fool ourselves into believing that things are false, and we refuse to believe that things are true. We lie to ourselves about the smallest details, such as how much we ate today, our height on our driving license. I'll have one glass, knowing we're going to drink four. Or what about I never had sexual thoughts about anyone except my spouse? Because that wouldn't be right, right? We lie about our most important life choices, such as why we married who we married, or a certain career path. We lie to ourselves because we don't have enough psychological strength to admit the truth and deal with the consequences that will follow. If you look at this photo right here,
Ah,
it's hard to look at this photo and think liar. But our self deception tendencies start here. From a very early age, we start observing and making conclusions about ourselves and our environment. Right or wrong, it affected who we are today. So, my question to you, Anton, is how do we understand our self deception?
The ironic thing about this subject is that whenever I have conversations with people and I'm talking about anything, it doesn't matter what it is, and the subject matter can expand or extend to so many different things. Obviously, as you illustrated in your example, it could be relationships, it can be our own personal biases about each other, it could be our own personal perspective of how we see ourselves. The thing that I always come back to about self deception is that it's always somebody else's fault. It's always a reason why, whether it be, you're not successful in life, so it becomes the system's fault, or, I'm not what I need to be in my relationship. So why is the narrative painted that I need to be monogamous? Like there's always a narrative that allows us to be able to look out the window and point the finger instead of looking in the mirror and pointing the finger. So I think that self-deception comes from a couple of places. It comes from a space where we want to be accepted. And then secondly, it comes from a space where we want to make ourselves feel better about not meeting expectations or not living up to our full potential. And that doesn't matter what realm we exist in. Like I said, it can exist in relationships. It can exist in our own personal financial future. It can extend into regret as far as a relationship that didn't last outside of something that was romantic. So, for example, if my parents didn't necessarily raise me right, I can use that in a deceiving way as an excuse for why I'm not where I'm supposed to be later on in life. It allows me to be able to not take ownership and personal responsibility of my own circumstance and situation. But the question then becomes, at what age and at what point in your life and at what point in a relationship and at what point in this circumstance do you say, I'm no longer blaming everybody else. I'm no longer looking at everybody else in the system and what they did to me as a factor in where I am and what how I see life and how I play things out from here on out. So I think self-deception again, it rests within those two realms. Blaming somebody else so that I don't have to take accountability and making ourselves feel better about where we are in life so that we don't have to own it.
Be next. How do we understand our self deception?
Um, I think we have to get to a space in which we know who we are. And I think a lot of times we don't know who we are. We kind of create this persona, right? Or we create this. almost something that we aspire to get to, but we're not there yet. So we try to adopt what we think is, cool, or what we think that will be well received, and we present ourselves in a way that we're not. Like, let's say if I wanted to be a dope boy or something like that, or like a street dude, like we live this persona, and I think that really is kind of almost like I don't know. I almost feel like I'm not trying to pick on just myself and black folks, but I feel like I see this a lot, like with black folks, that we do adopt this character, right? That we feel that how we supposed to be, or what we supposed to be, or who we supposed to be with, but really we don't really know, and we try to act it out. We try to act hood when we not hood. We try to act street when we act not street. We try to act smart when we not that smart, at least in that particular category. We do things right where we purchase clothes and cars and talk a certain way in order to feel that we're meeting a need, like we're filling a void. And it really speaks to the vulnerability that we have, that we don't know who we are, but we feel we have to be this way. This happens like, when we get into relationships where we create this persona and we get into the relationship, and then it becomes like, you get fact checked, you get exposed, right? And we find out that you're not who you say you are. And I think this deception is like, at a certain point in time, you got to realize, like, who are you really? What's your strengths, what's your weaknesses, what I'm good at, what I like, what I don't like. But there's no age limit to this. I think that there's a lot of people that, like, you mentioned JR just showing your picture when you was a toddler. It's one of those, like, we can say like, hey, it starts there because we want to be cool, we want to be accepted. And I think that's the part where we live in this space where we still are trying to be accepted. And the only reason I mentioned like black folks, because we still try to be accepted in this popular culture, right? And we feel that we have to be accepted by people who are black or not black in order to be able to validate who we are in this society. And it perpetuates this level of deception that we feel that we have to be this person. But really, are we being our own person, or are we being a type of person that we feel that will be well received? And then we get lost, in which I think is truly a lot of people that are truly lost of who they are, and they walking around here aimlessly, and they're aimlessly having babies. They're aimlessly, selling dreams, because we think that's what folks want to hear. But until we get to a point to really have our feelings hurt, to have that reality check, I think we're going to continue to perpetuate these characters and these stereotypes that we have for our own selves on how we're supposed to act.
I know we just talked about Tamar, and I think that transition, this topic transition right into the situation when we talked about self deception, and I felt like Tamar was the perfect person for this topic, because I feel like she has a lot that she needs to deal with herself. She's projecting that energy out on everyone that she's with for the most part, but I think that she has some things she has to handle herself. And I will also use my oldest son for an example. I had a conversation with him, and I feel like he carries this energy around. And one of the things that I struggle with him with is accountability. Is that whatever he does, he doesn't want to hold himself accountable. And what I told him was that if majority of the people are saying this about you, or you getting the same reactions, or you find yourself in the same situations, then maybe it might be you. And it's hard for some people, including my son at the moment, to understand that it might be you. And I've come to the realization that I feel like some people might not get it. I've had a conversation with somebody, and I felt as though I can't reach this person. Like, no matter like what I say, maybe I'm not the person to reach them. Maybe it's going to take therapy, but would they even get to therapy? That's the question. But I think that I've been blessed to understand, and I'm not going to just say it's everybody else. I use myself as an example. Often, I may do an action. I'm not going to claim. I'm not going to say I'm perfect, but I think that one of the gifts that I have is that I'm able to step outside of my body and analyze my own self, my own actions, and understand from the other person's perspective, and then be man enough to apologize, or to understand if I was wrong in that situation. And I think that a lot of people can't do that. I don't know if it's a skill, I don't know if it's a blessing, whatever it is, they just can't do it. And I understand that some people will never be able to get it. Another example I use is my mother. I have conversations with her all the time. And I feel like my mother is who she is. But I also feel as though I'm going to have to be the bigger person. And a lot of times we have to be the bigger person in a lot of situations because that person may not ever get it. And you just have to just understand that. You may get it 100%, 120%, but that person may not get it. So it's kind of a struggle because I kind of wonder, can people get it, but maybe I'm just not the right person to help them get it? Or will they just not get it? Because it's a lot of people walking around, with this self-deception. So I just don't know how to navigate through that. Maybe you guys can help me understand.
I think you bring up a good point where sometimes you just got to hear it out of somebody else's mouth, somebody that you don't know. A lot of times, I think going back to how you receive somebody, their message, sometimes it's not even the content, it's the delivery of it or who we willing to hear it from. Like, in this moment, sometimes people aren't willing to listen at the time. So that's why I think it goes back to just certain spaces on where you're at and knowing your audience.
I mean, it's a lot of people. I know we don't like the word toxic, but it's a lot of toxic people that don't even realize that they're toxic. I mean, that word might be a little bit more like relatable to this whole situation. I mean, there are people that are the issue, and they don't understand that they are the issue, or at least they're not admitting it because some people might see it, they just won't ever admit it. But how can we? Like, if you had some advice to give to somebody, like what advice would you be able to give to them to help them to understand? Because a lot of times, a lot of people think that they're right all the time. You can't tell them nothing. They know everything. You just give up, like, okay, whatever, okay, fine, yeah, because they're not willing to listen, which is, I think, is key. So it's like, what advice would we give somebody to try to get them to think like outside of their own box?
I wouldn't give them advice.
Why is that?
That's your advice. That's what we do.
They're not open to it. So I don't force my advice on people. And I don't believe that that's a way to motivate or even encourage change and behavior. So that is something that I wouldn't do. Now, when it comes to a child and, you're trying to raise a child in a certain environment and you want to do things, there's things as a parent that you can do to enforce your rules and enforce your situation. But what you can't do is change their view. So even if I feel like I do all these things for my kids and I am the best mother, my kids may feel neglected or they may feel these things and I can't do anything about the way they feel. But what I can do is enforce my rules and enforce my regulations. So it's different with a minor who's under your control, right? But with an adult, I don't force my views on people. And I don't expect a person to think they're that same way I think. And I don't believe in letting people define you. And so I think that has absolutely nothing to do with self-deception, in my opinion. Allowing someone else to tell you who you are and what you do and how you behave. But self-deception is more so you lying to yourself and not accepting who you truly are.
Hey, but do you feel like in some cases it's like people are doing that because they're like something, internal that's going on that they feel like there is a deception? Because I think I don't want to, it's layers to this, right? Where the thing is, we've all been in a case where we've been like, we use this almost as a mask, this self-deception in order to cover up what's the core issue or what's really going on. I mean, there's been cases I've done that just because it's like, hey, you don't need to know what I really got going on. So it is about deception. Yeah. I'm gonna go in, and a lot of us do it all the time. We go into work or we go into a relationship acting like that we're not damaged or that we don't got baggage that we bringing in on our back every fucking day. So the thing is,
I can't relate.
Is that self-deception or is that time and place?
Actually, you know what's ironically enough, I actually 100% agree with you, but I agree 110% with what Tawana just broke down. Like, I don't have any kind of rebuttal as far as looking at it from a devil's advocate perspective. about what she said and what she broke down. However, I can't relate. I can't relate to what you said, B Nix, as far as we all do it. It don't apply to me, not even a little bit.
All right. Well, you don't got to talk the rest of the show then if it don't apply to you. But for those that do, it does. It's like it's some deep shit that may be going on with somebody that, again, we talked about earlier about this character, this persona that we live in a certain way, but really it's to mask something. It's almost like how we look at somebody that's an alcoholic, right? All the times we always look at, oh, this person's a drunk, they're an alcoholic, but we never give somebody the space to peel back the layers and say, like, well, why are they drinking? What's the root cause of it? Right? What are they trying to cover up? And that's a form of deception because it's socially acceptable to say like, oh, well, he's just a drunk or he's just an addict. The thing is, we never get to the core of like, hey, what is the true issue at hand? And the thing is, I feel that also can be encoded as deception, right?
Well, I know for sure, just having firsthand experience that like alcoholism can create a lot of self-deception in people. Because they can honestly believe that they're not an alcoholic at all, that there's absolutely nothing wrong and that they have it under control. And I have just firsthand experience because I have a close family member that is one. And I deal with it every day. And it's like, it's hard you can't convince someone that they need help. Like, seriously need help. So, it's a fine line between encouraging and supporting. However, like people may think because I drink wine, I need help. But, I may be in self-deception about that because I ain't going to stop drinking. I'm not going to stop drinking. But I'm just
okay. Thank you for sharing.
It is what it
is. But hey, the thing is, you look at, and I'm not the expert with this, but you think about somebody is kind of going through alcoholism. The thing is, like, 12-step program, something like that. The 12-step program is really not about alcoholism. It's really about them truly being able to find themselves. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, this all goes back to like, hey, if you're not at a point where you're able to reflect and find yourself, then you are acting out. You are like playing a character. But the thing is, you still are not able to get to a point where like, hey, you know what? Is some stuff going on, or what, I was faking it.
Well, self-deception is the most dangerous thing you can do for yourself. Let me tell you why, because it's always a hindrance to your growth. It never helps you.
I don't know if that's the most dangerous thing. I think
it's not the most dangerous, but
the most dangerous thing you do is get married without a prenup.
According to what data you got tonight, what data you got?
The most dangerous thing you do is get married without a prenup.
Court of public opinion. So in my court of public opinion, that is a very dangerous thing you can do. Is self-deception.
It's like one B, the most dangerous.
I do think that every time I've seen it happen, that it is a hindrance to the person. It's never a help to them. It's always like, okay, well, I don't think I need to change anything about myself, but I feel like I deserve this, that, and the third. Okay, sweetie, but you're going to keep on repeating the same patterns and you're going to keep on having the same thing happens to you just because you're not changing your behavior. And honestly, self-deception is not accepting other people's reality of you.
Well, I got a question.
That's not the same thing.
Well, hold on.
Before
you answer that question, B-Nix, you got to answer the question that was just posed on the screen, though, right? Like, going to work with home problems and home with work problems, I would say that's not being deceptive. That's being professional.
Yep.
So that's a completely different conversation.
It's being able to separate your work life, like balance. It's not deception is intentionally saying to yourself something different than what you know to be true. So you're lying, you're telling yourself something that you know is really, so I don't think the people who are actually believe what they're saying is deceiving themselves. I think that it's the people who know for sure. Like, yeah, I'm definitely
I don't know. Well, I'm curious because the thing is, I would initially agree with you, but then you start to think like, actually, the more I think about the word deception, it makes it seem like it's something sneaky, right, or something misleading. But then
that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, but is it? Yeah, but with that being said, is the aspect of misleading is that are you aware of unaware of your deception?
Right.
That's the thing. There is a case where it's like
Is it
people
intentional
aren't
or not?
aware. Yeah, they
Mhm.
aren't aware of this deception or their persona that they're presenting. Or are you fully much aware of it and you know for a fact this is what you're doing in
So you
order to
actually,
work around a bigger issue?
So
Yeah.
do you honestly believe that people are so engulfed in whatever persona that they create, that they are in no way, shape, or form at any point in their life when they go home and they go to sleep at night and they lay their head on their pillow, you actually believe that in their mind they don't know who they are? Come on, fam.
I don't know. I think in some cases people begin to believe the lie, keep the lie alive, right?
But
Yeah.
come on, fam. But they,
No, for real. I mean, I don't got no percentages for you tonight. I don't. But I do believe there are people out there that really, they keep the lie alive. They begin to ingratiate themselves in this deception and they believe their own BS. And they think it's fact.
I
know people like
I think that there's a difference between being self-motivated. Like, for example, if you hyping yourself up, let's use sports for an example. And you like, you know what? Before I go out on this field, I'm the best receiver that's out here. I think that there's a difference between being motivated and trying to hype yourself up and lying to yourself. I don't believe, even as a teenager, as a child, that any person is that deceived and that they don't know that they aren't what this thing is that they're presenting. There is no way, shape, or form. They may think it's harmless. They may think that it serves a purpose. They may do it because it makes them feel better. Whatever the reason is, nobody is that deceived in that they don't come to a reality when they look themselves in the mirror and say that I'm different than what I say I am. Fam, you're not looking in the mirror and saying I got a six pack and you ain't got no, like, come on. We not crazy. Ain't nobody crazy.
I do think that, Anton, people really believe that they're not who you may see them as or who we may view them as. That people honestly feel like, we may see somebody and not think they're necessarily sexy, but that person may be like, I'm sexy, and like it may be their reality.
I don't believe that they believe that. I'm
saying that
how you gonna not believe what they believe? Like, yeah, that's what you said, but you don't even believe that.
Like, for example, I see people all the time lie to themselves and say, no, but I'm healthy. It don't matter that I'm 100 pounds overweight. Like my whatever, my doctor said that, fam, I don't care what your doctor told you. You know that you asked the doctor a question because you don't feel like the thing about going to the doctor is that the first thing that they do is they ask you questions about how do you feel? Like they're making an assessment based off of the information that you give them most of the time.
I don't know. If anything, what is it called? Cognitive dissonance, all right? What the thing is, people do like disassociate themselves with this reality of the situation because they do.
Because all the guys is in my DM. Nah, fam, you don't really believe that. Like, you don't believe that you're sexy just because a bunch of, like, anybody can get sex. Like, you're a woman, fam. Everybody is in every woman's DM. Like, that's not an accomplishment.
I think you assume people are like giving themselves reality checks and self-assessments. I don't believe that happens very often.
I don't think that they have to give themselves.
No, because the thing is
I think that when they get ready in the morning and they look themselves in the mirror, they know exactly what they look like. There is no deception.
No, Anton, that's not true.
Anton, you always speak from a very absolute space, a very matter-of-fact space.
Exactly.
The world is not absolute. It's not matter-of-fact. It's not binary.
No, it's not.
Everything in the world. You make everything in the world is a yes or no situation.
It's very black and white. Like there is no.
Anton, it's not black and white.
Life is not black and white at all.
I just had this conversation with somebody else.
Of course you did.
What we do is we throw extra paint on it to try to make it more gray.
Isn't that deception?
To make ourselves feel better, or so that we can have the conversation and try to reason within ourselves of why it's not black and white. But when you peel back all the layers and I see that crackhead that's doing a water wave in the middle of the street, you know what I'm saying? Like, he know that he ain't right when that high wear off. But he threw that extra layer of crack on so that he can water wave.
I don't know, man. You don't know what you don't know. And the thing is, I feel like some people walking around here truly not knowing who they are.
When they hide.
You know what? I grew up not living in the gray area either. So I kind of understand where he's coming from. Like, you know, it's very hard to be decisive when you have so many gray areas that you just operating in. So I don't like to, because like I feel like when I was in that gray area, I had a lot of self-doubt. I was like not sure about my decisions. Like I feel like, you know, being a little bit more decisive is better. I do agree with that. I don't think that.
But you know what?
I don't think that it's the only way to be like Anton.
You know what the interesting thing about it though is, if you sit and you talk to a person that has an addiction, and JR know that, like, I've recorded it, I've documented different journeys and capturing different things about what it's like to have conversations with people that's in that space.
Yeah,
they will be honest with you and say, yo, I do this so that, you know what I'm saying, I can throw that extra layer of protection or that deception over myself. But I know who I am. I know this is my issue. I know that I got a problem. I know that ain't the thing that I am.
But people with addiction,
okay, right? They'll be honest, and maybe it's just the setting that they feel comfortable.
You're saying in recovery,
other people, their honesty. But man, come on, man. Like, people know who they are.
But I mean, also you're talking to someone like you know who you're talking to is someone that obviously is willing to submit and is able to reflect on what they did. You're talking to people. You're talking to somebody that's already level set on having that way of thinking. Man. Some people, like we talk about therapy, right? Some people don't go to therapy because they're not in a space in which they're able to reflect yet. Everybody is not able to operate in that same space to be that transparent. And I get what you're saying, like, hey, internal locus of control, right? And we all have control over what we do, right? But the external locus of control, the fact that there are people that allows this reality around them to be able to create this current version of themselves and stuff, man.
Yeah, listen, next time you see that crackhead water waving in the street,
Anton, I'm telling you that's not true. Like, I know people who are in addiction phases. You cannot trust anything that is being said. That you have to be on a road to recovery, or you have to be in a place where that is what you're willing to do. That is absolutely false. I'm telling you right now, just from firsthand experience, that I have so many instances and examples of being deceived, blatantly deceived by people who are in that addiction phase.
But they still know who they are. They know they're deceiving you. Though.
I don't believe that they
don't believe that they're doing you a service.
I believe
deception. They know that they're deceiving you. They're not.
Yeah, but at what stage though? Are you talking about somebody that's on the, like I think Tawana mentioned, are you talking about somebody that's on the road to recovery, or somebody that is still operating in that space?
Right, so let's go back to, because like I think that one of the biggest conversations around deception lies around weight loss. I think that
okay, all right, I wasn't expecting that, but we could take it there.
Because I think that, you know, when you post in the thing and people start throwing out that lie, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. No, that's BS, because we all had the opportunity. We're going to take the best looking person that we can find. However, that's not true. Beauty is not in the eye of the beholder. Beauty is in the exception of the beholder. People settle for what it is that they need to be or what it is that they're unwilling to deal with. However, people know, and nobody is naive, but it's one of the biggest things that I see people projecting deception about who they are, about where they need to be. Nobody is crazy. Nobody is I don't care what they tell you. I don't care how much they say, well, I'm BBW. Like, fam, listen, you can say all that you want, but you can't convince me that you wouldn't be in your ideal shape if you can snap your fingers and do it today. you would not choose to still be BBW. That's not true. Don't lie to yourself. Let's stop projecting this level of deception that's continuing to hold us in this state where we can't get to where we need to be. You got to be honest with yourself, fam. And you know who you are. How we gonna solve for this is really the question. How we gonna get you over the hump? But we can't do that until you actually start to be honest outwardly, so that you can stop crying when you go to bed at night that don't nobody want you. We don't want to hear that, fam.
Well, hey, if we're talking about body, then if somebody like go to pay for surgery, that's self-deception too. It's really like, hey,
that's having the resources to
it's being resourceful.
No, it's having the resources to try to address what you've identified as the problem area. So you're.
And what about somebody that has like weave, like even like men and women? Because men wear weave too. Is that self-deception? Where it's a persona? So we mentioned about this, right? This persona, is that could define as self-deception?
But deception is not necessarily doing things differently. Deception is lying about why you're doing things. So for example,
people lie about surgeries. They lie about I got hair, and really they don't. They got old dreads, and really they don't. They bought their dreads.
Like, I think that there's plenty of women that be like, yo, I want longer hair, but I don't want to grow it, so I'm gonna get this weave. I don't think that there's no deception.
But would that be deception?
No, that's not deception. That's not deception.
It's just
at all.
What is wardrobe change?
No, I mean it's just doing what you want to do. But I don't think that they're being.
It's just doing what you want to do because it's a choice. Hey, somebody could be like, "Hey, I'm lying to you," but like that's just I'm doing what I want to do.
If somebody says
who I want to be.
No, but if somebody says to you, "This is my real hair," right? Like, don't touch it. I don't want you touching it. But this is my real hair, and I got to do that with my family.
Celebrities and people in real life.
That's where the deception comes
I got Indian in my family, so I got
people do that when they like go to the gym and then they just start doing videos at the gym knowing they had went under the knife, right? But they just act like all that came from just hard work at the gym, drinking flat tummy tea and all that,
and then having me at the gym knowing I ain't gonna look like that.
But but see, it's different aspects of deception. So we all do it. We all do it then, right, Anton? Except you.
I don't do it. I don't play it.
Well, you one of the few.
Anton. He.
I don't have
human. He ain't no regular human.
I forgot. He all about just God, country, and family. God, country, and family.
I don't think there is not one person on earth that can say, yo, Anton
on earth.
Not one person on this earth that can say Anton is anything different than what he say he is. Ain't nothing out of order, out of place. I am exactly what the presentation is. And that's why I say I live my life like an open book. I'm more than willing to show my bank account to people. I'm more than willing to show, like, I take people along the journey.
Nobody give a damn about your bank account.
Yeah, they do.
But just because
I hate when you bring up like money, man.
My point is that
people say whatever they want to say.
My point is that there's nothing.
That's part of the persona.
You can't validate yourself based on people and how they feel. Because if you do that, you will be failing.
My point is that I choose to live my life like an open book.
You're right, because y'all want to see my bank account.
Hold on,
y'all don't.
I choose to live my life like an open book.
It'll depress y'all.
I choose to live my life like an open book.
I'm
an advocate for. I want to use myself as an example, and I'm an advocate for being absolutely brutally honest about who you are and where you are in life, because I think that is more impressive and the story is better when you show the journey versus presenting a fictional outcome.
You're right. So I do agree with that. That one soundbite I agree with you.
To the right people, though. See, I'm a little bit more private than Anton. Like, I be kind of a little apprehensive about
how we know Anton ain't, like, while we talking about this shit, how do we know Anton ain't being self-deceptive this whole time on this fucking show? About what? Grow up with Anton. So the thing is, like, hey, I don't know how authentic this brother is.
We
You know
don't
what I'm
know.
saying?
I
don't know what I don't know.
278 videos online.
B-Nick,
I ain't watched not one of your videos, brother.
do you want to hire a private
All my
investigator?
neighbors has been on my stuff telling you exactly what I am. And
B-Nick,
how I
you
do
gonna
it.
hire
we're
a
gonna go ahead.
private
We're gonna go ahead and
investigator.
close this
Yeah,
one
please.
out.
I ain't trying to hear about
You
Anton's
gonna hire-
resume
you gonna take
once
that
again.
whole
I'm
thing.
tired of every time Anton talk, you always talk about his resume. I don't care about your money, bro.
Yeah.
Unless
It's
you
crazy.
giving out unless you giving out donations.
Like I
It's
think
Yeah,
it's
so
the
you
thing.
know, 1
I-
to
I
12.
think
That's
that
my cash
if
app.
you seen it, you would throw up. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
On a serious note, we was talking about self-deception, and I know we joking around about the little small things, but there are a lot of people that are going through self-deception and not knowing it. And I just think we want to kind of highlight that. Just be considerate and mindful. If somebody is saying some things, just kind of hear them out, because I just feel as though sometimes we are unaware of what's actually going on within ourselves. So just having an open mind, I think it kind of can go a long way as far as when it comes to like relationships, when it comes to ourselves, when it comes to bettering ourselves. I just think we got to have an understanding that.
Hey, can I disagree? I know this was your closing remark, but
yeah, that was kind of like disrespectful, but go ahead.
hey, I was honest. What Anton used, I was brutally honest. Isn't that how you talk? I was brutally honest.
Go ahead.
What if I don't want to hear folks out, man? I feel like Tawana mentioned this earlier. Like, I don't got the energy for that, man. Like,
that's the problem. That's the problem, Nix. I mean, think about it.
Whose problem? My problem?
No problem.
It's my problem because I don't want because I want to shut down that type of energy.
You don't want to let people
Nix,
say
like,
who
it
you
may
are.
not be a problem for you, but it could be the problem for the person that's on the receiving end. That's the thing.
Hey, this has to come from within.
YOLO.
Hey,
This my life.
Yeah, they need to,
My life.
because we talked about self-reflection, right? To self-reflect.
Mhm.
That work needs to be done internally
But some people
before you
don't know how to
bring
do
that
it.
to my doorstep.
That's the thing. Some people don't know how to do it.
No, well, see, that's what we talked about with Anton. Are we talking about somebody on the road to recovery, or are we talking about somebody that's still in it?
Some
Like, I
people are
don't
just
want to have a
unaware. I mean,
conversation on the road to recovery, because I'm assuming that you're ready now to have that very frank conversation.
No, that's the
If you're not
reason
ready
why-
to have that
That's the
conversation.
reason why I stress the importance of like therapy. Even if you don't feel like you need it, I feel like it could probably be helpful.
Hey, you got to be ready for therapy. That's why folks don't go to therapy now. Everybody ain't ready for it.
Let me tell you.
It's a choice.
You gotta
Some
be ready
people look
for
at
it.
it. I mean, some people look at it as though it's they're special. It's a handicap type of thing. But you have to get out of that mindset and understand that it can only help you. To speak with somebody. There's a lot of people that have a lot of trauma, a lot of things that happen, a lot of situations that happened when they was younger that made them who they are today. And they don't really see and understand that it's affecting the people around or the people that they, when they step into somebody else's life, their past traumas and past situations is affecting the relationship that they have within that person right there. So, but a lot of people don't know how to separate it. They don't know how to understand it. So I'm just trying to get people to think outside of their box. And I've been saying this all throughout this whole conversation, is that a lot of people are unaware. Just be open-minded to the possibility that you may be wrong or you may not be as right as you think you are. And that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm trying to get people to understand, because a lot of people may come in and they can tell everybody the same story and everybody believe that they are right. But there's that one person, or there's other people that may say something wrong with this person. They don't really see the truth, and they see it differently from their perspective. And I think that's key. I think that's the most important thing to take away is that your thought process may be wrong. So just be open-minded to listening to other people's opinions, perspectives. You don't have to do exactly what it is that they're telling you or exactly what it is that they're saying, but just be considerate that they may have a point.
Very interesting, JR.
You don't think so? Not at all?
You do have to be open to other people's opinions, and I encourage that, and I think that is an absolute, good advice that you give your viewers. But to tell people that they need to consider what other people are saying about them as a reality to make a decision about who they are is absolutely false. And I think what happens when you tell people to do something like that is that you will maybe encourage people to like have more insecurities and more doubt about who they are themselves. Like sometimes you have to validate who you are yourself. You don't need anyone else to tell you that it's wrong or it's right. Remember that there's stories about like people who do the right thing, and there's tons of people who are against them initially, and those people are just really convinced that of who they are and their purpose, and they go against the grain. So if you always follow other people's opinions of you and you always care about how everybody else perceives you, then you will never progress and never. I just don't see how that can help you in any way. That's just my opinion.
I'm not saying that you have to, that whatever somebody else is saying is ace. All I'm saying is having an open mind. So I listen to what people are saying. I may not, it's a lot of times I do not want to hear what this person is telling me. I do not want to hear, I swear to, I hate swearing to God, but I don't want to hear what they're saying. But there's also this voice, this other voice inside my head that says, listen to what they're saying. It may have a point. And then after hearing them, there's been times that I've said, you know what? Maybe I was overthinking the situation. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe my tone was, to them, maybe it was aggressive. I just think that you have to be open. That's the whole point that I'm trying to say. You don't have to.
Oh yeah.
You have to consider what they're saying, because what they're saying could be some bullshit. But somebody that's able to see like both sides of the situation, I think they always have the advantage.
Right.
Whereas though a lot of people that's out there now, they can't see that. You could talk to them. I had conversations where I feel like they didn't see it, and it could just be that particular conversation, or it could just be them.
Yeah.
I've had conversations with some of you guys on the podcast right now, and I feel like you guys wouldn't hear me. And I just kind of gave up. It was just like one of those things, like, oh, they remind me of my mother. They just not gonna never get it. They are who they are. So I just think that the best advice that I can give somebody that's listening is just be open minded. If you're a stubborn person, you got to drop that. You can't be like that. You got to be open minded to hearing what they're saying, because all along you may be trained to think in your head that this is the right way, but that's only in your head. What about the majority? I'm not saying the majority is right, but if it's not working, if you finding yourself in the same situation time after time, it's probably you. If it's the same result every single time, it might be you. And you got to be open to that. That's the only way that you're going to be able to curve like your energy towards that situation. If you want a different outcome, you might have to adjust what you're doing. And that's all I'm saying.
I agree.
All right.
I disagree.
Damn, Nick, I wasn't expecting that from you. Why you disagree? I'm just curious. We're going to close this shit out. Why you disagree?
Everybody got their own journey. And the thing is, maybe the audience, maybe I'm not part of the audience in which you're presenting that to, but, I feel like, hey, you have to go down that journey by yourself. You could have, supports along the way, but if we're still staying true to the self-deception, you need to go figure that out. You need to go on that journey to find out and to dig as deep as you can on your own. It's a journey of one.
Nick, I understand that point. Mm-hmm. And that's how I felt like with my mother, with that example I gave. I said I feel like she's not gonna never get it. If she get it, it'd be like a 0.9% chance she'll get it. But she's going to figure it out herself. And I agree with you. Some people, if you tried, depending on how patient you are, depending on how much energy you want to put towards the situation, you might just say, fuck it. Like, I'm not about to keep going back and forth with you. It is what it is. If you figure it out, fine. If not, fine. I'm going to live my life. You go do what you do. And I get that. I agree with you to the extent that everybody's not going to get it. They might have to go through that rough period, and maybe they might figure it out. But there's also a possibility that they may never figure it out, or at least while you're alive. Maybe they might figure it out when you're gone or something like that. But that's just the reality of the situation.